I tell you what, Vince.
The time.
I'm just flat out ready, and I wonder, are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go. Rapid fire on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
I'm
baby.
fired up.
Yeah, baby.
Let's go.
So, we heard from Marcus Freeman in the main part of the show, talking a lot about quarterbacks. We've got some other comments from him on a couple of different topics here, including just adjusting the spring schedule, as well as whether or not they considered, maybe even canceling the spring game like some of these other schools have done.
Move spring back. I think when I first put our spring practice calendar, it was last year sometime, right, when we decided when the spring game was going to be. So I decided after the season we had to move spring practice, start a spring practice back about 2 weeks. And the reality is I did not want to cheat the strength and conditioning phase of the development phase of our team. I think it's really important. And there was a integration of different guys based on the amount of plays they played last year in terms of when they started that strength and conditioning phase. And so that's why I decided to push it back 2 weeks to get started. And we will have a spring game. It will be a version of a spring game. Again, it's important to me is to use that as an opportunity, one, to let our players, yes, perform in front of our fans, but two, it's a chance to really integrate our community and our fans with this football program. I think that's so important to me, is to give the opportunity to fans that maybe typically don't get the opportunity to come to a Notre Dame game, or if they do, to give them another opportunity to come and engage with our players. I don't want to take away from that. There's a lot of pros and cons for each decision, but that went into my decision of keeping our spring game, was that I want to use this opportunity for our team and our football program to make sure that we are really interacting with our fans.
Vince, do you think when Notre Dame has the blue gold game on April 12th, they should troll Southern Cal and Ohio State, like with the fact that they're actually having a spring game, unlike those two particular schools?
I have been very clear on this show. I am all for trolling in reverse, getting back at it. I am all for it. And so, yes, I don't know what that would look like, but I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it. Yes. Yes.
I think so as well. Social media, the social media needs to put their thinking caps on and be ready.
100%
for that.
It's I will say I was
I like this. Maybe they should roll in. Maybe they should roll in with the Trojan horse through the tunnel.
That would be pretty funny, actually.
Paint a Buckeye on top, maybe.
I was listening to Tim O'Malley the other day on his show, and they were talking about the trolling and all that. He's like, what? And that's why I want to give credit where it's due. Okay. He said the next time Notre Dame gets a DB recruit to commit, Notre Dame needs to roll out all the pick sixes that they had against USC in the last 2 seasons, because Notre Dame has one less touchdowns by their defense than USC has with their wide receivers over the last couple of games. So they need to roll out those highlights when Notre Dame gets a DB recruit, whenever that happens. And I'm all for that. Like, let's go. You obviously rolled out the grainy film.
Now, props to O'Malley, because I didn't hear him say that. And I'm sure he didn't hear me either. But I said something similar to that, I believe.
Okay.
It must have been when Jesse was on.
Well, then I will give you props too.
The fact that like between Xavier Watts and almost Watts alone, with the interceptions that Notre Dame has had in the last 2 games.
Correct.
Against USC.
Yes. That needs to happen. I would be okay with that. Now, Notre Dame will take the high road, because that's what generally Notre Dame does.
Yeah.
I'm here for the petty.
I did find it interesting, though, that he said the exact wording, like a version of the spring game. So, like,
that means it's going to be very controlled, is what that means. It might.
Did they just put flags on them? Like,
pretty much.
Is that kind of where we're going?
But he did say what I also believe is that the spring game is an opportunity to interact with the fans.
Right.
And
that's exactly what it is.
Like, thank you for saying that, because that is exactly what it is. I don't care.
They're also going to televise it. by the way. And
Yeah.
like just all these, starting with Matt Rule, if you're really that paranoid that you think your roster is going to get plucked, like these guys across the board, regardless of what school you're at, but especially if you're at a Power 4 school now, which we all include Notre Dame in that, obviously, even though they're not in a conference, but like all these guys have been scouted at a high level. There was video on all of these guys from their high school days. What are you really going to find out in a spring game?
Nothing
that you didn't already know about them through their recruiting process. Like your guy is going to get plucked from you because you go out and have a scrimmage at the end of the spring. Come on.
It's nonsense is what that is, in my opinion. That's a nonsense excuse because, you feed them the truth serum and you ask them, really, do you really think that other schools are watching your spring game to try to poach your players? And they'd be like, no, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. There's
no way that's the real reason. There's no chance. None.
Yeah. John says spring game is for the fans and the parents. And, again, like there are plenty of people who can't afford to go to a real game because the tickets are going up every year, especially if you're going to go to. And like you could never, I don't know if your daughters are even interested, but you could never take your whole family because of what it would cost to go to a real game. But like to the Bull Gold game, it's fairly affordable.
Yes, 100%. So yeah, if I was just a regular fan and didn't have credentials and all that kind of stuff, this would be the game I would take my family to, because there's no chance I could take my family unless tickets were gifted to me. There's no way I could take my whole family to a Notre Dame football game. None. Yeah. Zero chance. So that's what this game is for.
Absolutely. By the way, I should mention, I texted him this morning and I told him happy birthday on the show yesterday, but it is Jesse's birthday. So happy birthday.
That's right. The big
to him.
2-9.
2-9.
Outing him on that one.
Last year of his 30s.
Yep.
I texted him this morning because maybe this is why I was awake, because I was 29 years ago today. It was a little after, I worked morning news and sports at a small radio station in Kansas. I rolled in for my morning shift to anchor the news and sports on KOFO in Ottawa, Kansas. And sometime between 5 and 5:30, my boss is sitting in the other room. He was like the morning DJ, but he owned the station, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, your wife is on the phone. And she went into labor.
Yeah, buddy.
And so I had to book it out of there. And we got to we were in Ottawa, which is about 20 miles south of Lawrence. We drove up to Lawrence, and 12 plus hours later in labor, in he came.
There we go.
It was the official, I think it was either a Wednesday or a Thursday. I can't remember if it was the day before, the NCAA tournament started or the day of, but it was the official kickoff. March Madness, March 19th, 1996. Are you looking it up for me? You're on mute right now, by the way.
I had no idea what you said because my son's AirPods just connected to my computer.
I
heard everything that you just said, but but now we're good. I don't know how that happened, but all of a sudden I was like, what is happening? But yes, so I will always remember how old Jesse is, because in just that weird whatever, you have been married 11 years younger than me.
That's true.
And our firstborns are almost to the day 11 years apart from each other.
Really?
Yes. Because Dylan's birthday was on Saturday.
So he's 11 years
he just turned 18.
We're basically on the same path in terms of when we got married, when we had our first, in terms of years and all that.
We were married for almost the exact same amount of days.
I was actually thinking about that this morning as well. How odd that is. That we both ended up, we share the same wedding anniversary, 11 years, exactly 11 years apart, and that our sons were born just a few years.
4 days apart.
4 days apart, 11 years apart.
Yes.
Yep.
So I'll always remember your anniversary, how many years you've been married and how old Jesse is.
We have a room, Salty. It's called YouTube, and you're just here to share it. You're voyeurs in our room.
That's right.
You are. Maybe we should put up blinds on the room. Okay, so Andre is asking about other teams scrimmaging. And that was actually leading into the next question on this rapid fire list, because Colorado football coach Deion Sanders has an idea for spring football. Rather than the typical intra-squad spring game, Sanders wants to do what NFL teams do and practice against another college team for a couple of days, and then you play that team in an actual exhibition at the end of spring. Do you buy or sell that idea, Vince?
I actually really buy that. I think that makes a lot of sense. As a high school coach, I really liked competing against other high school teams throughout the summer because it's just competition. Like I don't even care what you're doing, a 7-on-7, an 11-on-11, drills together. Doesn't matter. You're finally hitting somebody that's not wearing the same helmet as you. I think it fosters competition. I dig it. I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't necessarily know about televising the game. Okay, maybe, whatever. That's fine. But the practices, I'm all on board with. I think that's a fantastic idea.
The only issue I have with it is, like, look at Notre Dame as an example this spring, and you can throw Ohio State into this boat as well. But let's look at Notre Dame as the prime example. They did play 4 extra real games into late January.
True.
So, like, how excited is Marcus Freeman going to be about wanting his team to go full live against another team,
right?
In spring, right? Like, yeah. I think from a TV standpoint, like, TV would eat this up if they had the opportunity to throw on, like an actual scrimmage between, Colorado and Notre Dame, or Notre Dame and Michigan, Michigan, whoever it happens to be. Like, they would eat up the opportunity, especially if you got a couple high profile teams to actually show something at this time of year.
Yeah,
when you got 2 teams going head to head.
Can you imagine? So, like, the Notre Dame has been on Peacock the last few years for their blue gold game, and they've got Marcus Freeman mic'd up, and he's kind of behind. He's joking with the comment. Can you imagine Marcus Freeman and Deion Sanders both mic'd up, talking to the announcers while this thing? Like, that's entertaining. Like, that would be entertaining to me.
Yeah.
You might get some side eye from Marcus Freeman because he'd probably get annoyed after a while, but that would be entertaining to me.
They did it a couple of years ago. You remember? Because I remember when the weather, was it last year or the year before, when the weather was garbage, and they did have a mic on Freeman.
Yeah.
Where he was, talking to him before the game, I think, a little bit. I don't know how much he was actually talking during the game.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, from a TV standpoint, I think it makes perfect sense. And to TD4ND's point, maybe that's why Deion is throwing that out there, because, like, it would get Colorado more time on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Look,
Deion's a lot of things, but he understands what gets on TV.
He knows marketing.
He knows marketing, man.
He knows how to market himself, market his kids.
That part I got no problem with, man. Like, he's doing a great job for Colorado in that regard, all of that stuff. So I'm good with all of that.
Yeah. Father David said it was last year that Freeman was talking during a couple of drives.
Well, and they had Riley Leonard on too, because he
that's right.
there with Freeman.
That's right. So it would have been last year. Yeah, I mean, that's the only issue I would see is if you bring in another team and the juices get flowing, there's kind of an increased risk of injury that maybe isn't there if it's just your own team, going head to head during the spring. So it's a matter of how much you actually want that kind of external competition in a spring setting. So
100%.
That would be my only concern.
I get that. I totally get that. But I mean, you could get that with your own guys too, but I also see your point. But,
I would actually like it what NFL teams do. Like, they do it during training camp. Right. I would actually like it more in a training camp setting as you're getting ready for the season.
Right.
To do
do it those first, because you basically get a month of training camp. Those first 2 weeks, maybe that second week, you bring a team in.
Yeah, like the end of the second week, you do it for a couple days.
Yeah.
Some of your live drills and stuff like that you were going to do anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Father David wants to be the team chaplain for Hillsdale. I'm all for it, Father David. Come on down. Come on down, man.
Do it.
Come on down.
By the way, Father David, back to the whether or not Notre Dame should troll Ohio State and Southern Cal when they have the spring game. He said, "Don't troll, just put up 60 when they come to."
I get that.
That's a good solution as well.
Let the games do the talking. I told you, I'm like the conductor of the petty train. Like, I'm okay with that. I really am. Woo,
This we
woo.
know. This we know.
So let's go.
So wide receiver / lacrosse player Jordan Faison did practice with the football team today. He was out there with the wide receivers. Here's Marcus Freeman on Jordan Faison.
We enhanced it. It's still a collaborative effort between the lacrosse program, Coach Corrigan, and the football program, and John Bibles been helping out with, hey, what's the load and how much can his body take, and to me it's still lacrosse season, and that's what I told Jordan. If you're making the decision to play lacrosse, like you have to be committed to your team, and how can we tailor and adjust our schedule to make sure that he's getting enough work in to continuously improve as a football player, but understanding that he has a commitment to the lacrosse team. And we're working together well. He's getting football, probably getting more football in this spring than he did last year. I think it was important that we gave Jordan a really significant time away from football or lacrosse after the season. It was important that we gave his body time to rest before he got integrated into lacrosse.
So Vince, I was a little surprised to see Jordan Faison out there on day one with the receivers. I know a couple guys who were sitting next to me were surprised as well. Do you think, is it an issue at this point that he's doing both? Like, what do you think?
Obviously Jordan Faison wants to be at both. I mean, it feels like, based on those comments, he's the driving force for this whole thing, right? At some point, there has to be an adult in the room that is like, you know what? That's probably not a great idea. Maybe
this guy was limited because of an injury last year too. I'm sure he's healed, or he wouldn't be out there doing either. But still, like,
totally,
it was a high ankle sprain that limited it.
Let's not push the button. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go do lacrosse. You can hang out, take a mental reps here, maybe jump in every now and again, and maybe that's what he's going to do. But I wouldn't be having him at every spring practice and then every practice for lacrosse and every game. That's going to be way too much. And he will always say he can do it. You know what I mean? Because he's an athlete and he's a competitor and all that stuff. But eventually either Corrigan or Waggle or Freeman needs to step in and just be like, dude, you just do this for now.
And they've got the GPS numbers, so they have to be tracking this as well, because obviously, remember, now they didn't let him play the first couple lacrosse games. He missed the first couple games. He has played in, I believe it is 4 of their 6 games now at this point. They've only played 6 games, but still, like, there's, they obviously limited him coming out of football and into lacrosse. It just, like, if you're going to play lacrosse would be my thought.
100%.
It doesn't seem like football practice in the spring should be that important if they're fully willing to let him go out there and be on the lacrosse team. But that would be like, I don't see any benefit to trying to do both right now.
Yeah, completely agree. Because he's been in the program long enough. He doesn't necessarily need the reps at football. Like, that's where I'm at. You can get by and he'll be fine taking mental reps, being around the guys, the whole deal. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. He wants to be out there. And I love the kid for that. You know what I mean? You want a kid to want to be out there. Absolutely. But you also have to be a head coach. I don't want to make this pointed at either one of the head coaches, but like, as 2 programs working together on this, you've got to be like, dude, we got to tamp it down a little bit.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Fill in the blank. Notre Dame defensive lineman Devin Houstan moving to the offensive line this spring is blank.
Curious. It's curious. That's the best thing I can come up with. When I first heard the news, I was like, they're not hurting on the offensive line. You know what I mean? There's not a depth issue on the offensive line. I think we've all talked about the fact we think the offensive line is one of the deepest positions on the team.
Yeah.
And most talented. So it's like, okay. Interesting. I don't know. I'm curious to see how this is going to go. Like, where's he going to be lining up? First team, second team, third team? Like, was he that far down the list on the defensive line that they're making this move? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of question marks for me around this.
Well, and I asked Freeman about it, just today, and the answer was pretty short and sweet. It's like not even worth trying to play the soundbite on it. Here's the quote, though. We want to give him an opportunity to maybe contribute to our football program more than he has in the past. We think he has some skill set that would translate to offensive line. End quote.
That's not
it.
a great comment.
No.
That's not a great comment.
So, I mean, it's basically, it wasn't going to happen for a 4-star recruit. It wasn't going to happen for him on the defensive line. We wanted to give him an opportunity, to show that he could do something. And that was it.
Wow.
So you're exactly right. That is not a great quote. That is not, like any kind of vote of confidence at all.
It's like he just said, he had no prayer playing on defense. We're going to give him a shot on offense. Oof. Man.
Yeah. I agree, USMA. I mean, like, it does appear, barring Devin Houstan just wanting to stay for another year and get his degree, assuming he's on track for that the portal would appear to be next.
Yeah, agreed. Somebody can take him on the D line. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's a big body. Somebody will take him on the D line.
Yep. So Alabama State beat St. Peter's in dramatic fashion in a matchup of a pair of 16 seeds in a play-in game to tip off March Madness Tuesday night. There are a lot of college basketball talking heads who think that the 16 seeds should not have to be in these play-in games and only bubble teams should play in the play-ins. Do you buy or sell that, Vince?
I mean,
by the way, I watched this because you questioned when we were talking about tournament expansion last week whether or not I even watched play-in games.
So you watched it out of spite, is what you're telling me.
I watched this game because it was close and competitive. It was a good game. Like, did you see what happened at the end?
Nope.
It was a tie game. Looked like it was going to go to overtime. Alabama State heaves the ball up court, and there's like 5 guys in a pack, and the ball kind of tips off one of them. An Alabama State player grabs it in the paint, and lays it in with a second left to avoid overtime, and they end up winning by 2.
Wow.
Insane. But to the specific question, what do you think of it? Like, should 16 seeds have to be in these play-in games? Because I was thinking about this as I was watching it.
I'm going to go with I buy that because, look, the 16 seeds are guys that got automatic berths for winning their conference. They should be able to go to the full boat. They should go to the full Monty. They should not have to go to Dayton or wherever this was held. That's usually where the first 4 are held. They shouldn't have to do that. They punched their ticket to play in the NCAA tournament. They should be automatically in. I agree. It should be the bubble teams.
Yeah, they were automatic qualifiers because these 16 seeds only get in because they win their conference tournament. So they've already won something. And I do, like, I hadn't really thought about it like this because my idea for the last few years has always been all the double-digit seeds, they should just all have play-in games because you get more teams that way. But I kind of agree. Like, why should they be forced? Right. They've already won something. They did
what they were told to do. Like, they did what they were told to do. Right. They got the big ticket, and they got to show it to their fans, and then they get to go to Dayton. Like, that doesn't seem fair to me.
And it is the bubble teams in that, 10, 11, 12, that range where, like, North Carolina, for example, last night, more of a question with them. They got a play-in game. They won. They moved on.
Yeah.
But, that's where more of the questions tend to come in. Now, the other side of it, though, is only 2 16 seeds have ever won a first-round game. And they've both happened, within the last 5 years? I guess it is 6 years, something like that. Six or 7 years, I guess, at this point, since UMBC finally, became the first 16 seed to win. So are we actually... the fact that 2 16 seeds had to play last night, you actually gave one of them a chance to win a game because now they're going to move on and play Auburn, the number 1 overall seed. So, like, is it actually a good thing for them that they actually had an opportunity, to win a game, even if it is against a team of, somewhat, equal capability?
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
I tend to agree, though. Like the fact that why should they have to play their way in to this thing?
That seems like they're getting doubly punished, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But it does. I don't know. As I'm sitting here trying to fill out my bracket because I haven't finished yet. Nobody pays attention to the play-in games. It's not even part of the tournament. That's the way I feel about it. So why do we want more of those?
You don't even pick those on your bracket. You
right.
just assume that team is going to end up
losing.
Like you can pick them to win if you want.
You can, but nobody ever pays any attention to them. So I don't know.
But I think Jesse brought this up. Like Michigan State got all the way, I think, to the Final Four a few years ago, as after being in a play-in. I believe it was Virginia Commonwealth when they made their run a few years back. They started as a play-in team. So I don't know. Back to Devin Houstan. Indy Sailor wants to know if we think that he'll make the 105 roster cut. I mean, just based on what we were just talking about, it doesn't seem like the odds are in his favor right now, does it?
I would say that would be a very simple one to make. That makes a lot of sense.
But DK says he'll laugh when Rudolph makes Houston the new left tackle.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
TD4ND, appreciate you being here, buddy, and we will see you on the other side.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that Chicago Cubs radio announcers Pat Hughes and Ron Comer called the Cubs versus Dodgers Japan series over the last 2 days from their booth at Wrigley Field rather than actually being in Japan.
I'm trying to think of a good blank here because it sucks. How about that? It sucks. Yes. Like, why did they not get to go to Japan with everybody else?
Marquee, the TV guys were there.
Right.
Like Marquee Sports Network guys.
Yes.
Those guys got to go.
And they're talking about their experiences and all the things that they got to do. Like, you just leaving the old guys behind? Like, I don't understand why those guys didn't get – maybe they didn't want to go. It was very COVID-esque because I saw a picture of the two of them in a dark Wrigley Field because obviously it's
booth. Yeah, there's nothing.
5 o'clock in the morning.
Didn't even light up Wrigley Field for them to give them any ambiance out there.
They're just in a dark, outside area. I mean, they're in their booth, but it's dark on the field, and they're calling this game with TV monitors. Like, welcome to COVID. Like, that is exactly what these guys did during COVID because they weren't traveling with the team. But this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to go to Japan. I can't imagine that they were like, we'll skip it. We'll call it from Chicago. I don't know. It just seems weird to me.
I think so as well, especially that, the whole reason they're doing this, once in a lifetime and the experience of Japan and all that kind of stuff. I have not found a story about the why. I did try to do a little research and find out if there was anything on this as to exactly why. The Fox Sports was also doing a national broadcast of this. Their announcers also stayed back. They didn't send the Fox announcers there. Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Right,
because I watched the Fox broadcast.
I don't know if the Dodgers TV guys got to go, but the Cubs TV guys got to go. And USMA 87 is just stinging me to the core right now. Radio guys are disposable, he says. Why pay for the travel?
Wow.
I mean, you're literally. I'm going to guess, because it is Major League Baseball, even though it's overseas, I'm going to guess it's a team charter.
Agreed.
So, there's no extra cost for putting them on the airplane. The only actual cost would be the per diem for their meals and the cost of their hotel rooms. When you're talking about 2 extra rooms, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things.
Look, usually those guys are down for spring training, too. Down in Arizona for spring training. Yeah. I was actually surprised they were in Chicago.
I thought the same thing because I didn't see, when I saw that picture that you were talking about, I didn't know if they were actually at Wrigley because, like you said, you couldn't even tell because it's a glass window and
it was dark. I mean,
basically
it was just
their booth. Yeah. I wasn't sure if they were in Arizona doing that or in Chicago, but it turned out they were at Wrigley.
Because there's a whole week's worth now more of spring training games. And I guess they're not going to be down there calling them. I don't know.
I find it odd, unless they wanted to stay back, which I don't know why you would want
it's
to.
Possible. I mean, they're older guys. Maybe they didn't want to make that trip.
And it is a
I don't
long
know.
flight.
It's a very long flight.
Hell of a long flight going over there.
No doubt.
So, but I don't know. I just it comes off to me
It's
if they
cheap.
didn't want to stay back, is very cheap on the Cubs' part. Which
Because they took a lot of people on that trip.
unfortunately is just par for the course, the way the Cubs have done business.
Well, and they even took extra players, like players that were not allowed to be dressed for the game itself. They were there because they got to dress for like the exhibition games that they had against the Japanese teams. They weren't even allowed to dress for the actual games. They got to go. I don't know. Seems. I don't know. It's ageist. That's what I'm calling. I'm starting the rumor now.
I agree.
The whisper campaign. It's ageist.
I hear you. Yeah. I found it odd. I found it pretty odd. It's like everyone else in baseball is supposed to be celebrating these games.
Yeah.
And Pat Hughes, one of the best announcers in all of baseball, is left behind in Chicago.
There were a lot of former Cubs out there too. Kerry Wood was out there.
D. Lee was out there.
D. Lee was out there. I think I saw Dexter Fowler was out there.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that have
I
retired.
wonder if they were on the charter.
I mean, they got plenty of money. They can
know,
probably
right?
get over there themselves. But still, there was just a lot of people over there. And to leave your radio guys and radio guys that are beloved too, by the way. It's not like these are two just random schmucks that are just happen to do games. You know what I mean? Like they're beloved guys.
And look, that COVID season, I mean, you remember when I was getting back into the booth with, like, I wasn't in the booth, like at home games, we were at the top of the arena.
Yep.
In an empty arena. For the road games, I was doing it off TV. And baseball might be a little easier to do, compared to basketball or, hockey, for example. But at the same time, there's
nothing like being in the stadium. And on the Fox broadcast, which now makes it sound odd because they weren't there. They were just talking about the sounds and the fans and all these different things and how quiet they were. And then, when the Cubs players were in the field, and then how loud they got when the Japanese players were in the, so it was interesting to me, but I don't know. It just, there's no reason they shouldn't have been there.
I agree. Just like I said, it comes off as completely cheap on the Cubs' part if those guys didn't want to, stay back. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for today. We zipped right through it this evening.
Well, we did, but it's still 6:30.
You're right. Spring practice is here. That's what we're fired up about.
Yeah. Let's roll.
I know.
Let's roll. I just got a picture of our dinner upstairs.
So okay. Well, that's a little hint for you then, right?
Apparently. Yeah. It says so good is what the caption says. So
all right.
There it is.
Sounds good. Well, we will talk to you tomorrow. Hit that like button before you leave, and we'll talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.